What's up, my nerds? Welcome to the Fargonauts comic book update.
With yours truly,
Eric Brodsho, where we will be talking about current events going on in the comic book world. Today we're going to be primarily focusing on DC Comics. What's with DC Comics, guys? What's with them? So one of the big things this week, especially or the last couple of weeks, especially around the shop where I work at, is dealing with speculators. Now, speculators, for those who don't know, are people who are keeping their eye out on comics for like a potential cover or a first appearance of a character or a certain event that takes place in it. And like the purpose of that being they'll get them, and most of the time, because a lot of these things aren't a big thing that's going to last for a long time, they will immediately flip them on eBay for a bunch of money, which is kind of detrimental to people and to the buyers and to shops in general, because now we're in a spot where the comic shop can't, if they know something's going to be worth a lot of money, you can't just throw it out there and let people just buy it at cover, because a lot of the times people will, like I said, come in, scoop up a bunch of copies of this new hotness.
just one person will do that.
I'm sure other shops have a thing like this where on new comics we have a limit one per customer. It's to counteract things like this. So these last couple of weeks, we've been dealing with the things in DC where Joker is getting a new sidekick. Harley and him obviously have been on the outs for a long time. She's gone. He needs somebody else to take her place. The new character is called Punchline. She had a cameo appearance, which means it's literally 2 panels in the book. One shows like the top half of her head, and then the second one is just the bottom half of her face. And that's her first cameo appearance. So
they kind of hit her.
Well, yeah, but we already know what she looks like and stuff, but like in the books, this is her first thing. So that immediately drove the speculators. So what that means then is, depending on where you are and what your store does, like maybe you jack the prices up on the copies that you get and put on the shelf.
First appearance.
Yep. Or like if you have a reserve box situation, which a lot of stores do, like, hey, maybe your customers will get it, but because they're subscribed, like they're not a party to this, get it for cover price, and maybe you take your shelf copies off, or maybe you then jack the prices up on it, because otherwise you're getting people coming in scooping them up for $4 or $5. And then in the case of Punchline with Batman 89, that book is $30 on eBay. So they'll go, and then they'll be making the profit off of it.
Yep.
So you can see how that would harm stores, right?
Sure.
And also harm readers, because that if you're not someone who gets like a reserve box, which I highly recommend you do because you're guaranteed to get all your stuff, then you're a shelf customer, you might show up and your book won't be there.
Right.
And then what happens the week immediately after Batman 89, there's a mini series out called DC's Year the Villain, Hella Risen.
Okay.
Number 3 was her first appearance. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I haven't read it yet, so I don't know. But then what happens in that situation? Then again, you have to do this all over again, right? So that's 2 books in 2 weeks. It's not the publisher's fault, right? And of course, even if it, they want to drive sales, right? They want people to buy it. So obviously, it benefits them too, but like, it's not their fault that this situation is going on. It's speculators. And And so, you have this again. So only your reserve customers might get it, or, people in general just won't be able to get it because you're leaving so much money on the table as a business if you just throw it out. And especially something like Hell Arisen, which, unlike Batman, which is like a continuous like top 10 book on the sales charts, Hell Arisen doesn't sell very much. So like, and it's written by the guy who's writing Batman now. A lot of stores, you don't just buy a bunch of copies of every book, right? You base what you buy off of your sales figures, how many people reserve it. Like if only one person reserves it, are we really going to get shelf copies if only one of our devoted customers gets it? You know what I mean? So like Hell Arisen is one of those situations. So there's even less shelf copies out there. And then of course, when this happens and people hear about it, then they quick go to Diamond and scoop up as many as they can. So then, that sells out. Yep. So some of these shelf customers will have to wait months to get a second printing, right? And then Art Germ, who's a very big variant cover artist in comics right now, he has a Punchline variant that he did that was originally going to be on Batman 94. But this last week it was announced that they're moving it up to Batman 92, which is her first like story appearance, like her first like actual worthwhile thing other than just being there, so we got Art Germ already increases the amount of want, right? And then on top of it being this Punchline character, and then on top of it being a first story appearance, we're gonna have to deal with this again in like next month. And
so that has yet to come out.
Yeah, 89 came out 2 weeks ago. It's currently on a bi-weekly schedule. Comes out every 2 weeks. Is it bi-weekly or bi-monthly? I don't know. Well, get a reserve box. That's the main thing. If you go to your local comic shop, odds are they will have some sort of reserve box system. You give them a list of the books you want, if you want variants, like all that stuff. If you want them to, even like we do it with some of our customers, where they'll be like, hey, if anything looks cool, pull it for me. Or if there's a new like #1 from Image Comics and it looks interesting, maybe pull it for me. So like you'll get cool stuff like that where you'll have a little like, little personal recommendations from.
Like a subscription thing?
Yeah, you just I don't know how, and like other shops do it. I can just speak for the one that I currently work for. And we have like a form, and you basically, fill out your information, and then write down like a list of books you want. And like, then we'll take it. There's software that's directly hooked up to Diamond, the only like comics publisher, or not publisher, distribution thing. And then, so then every week, or we'll have those, so then we're sure to order at least all the customers, all the box customers get their copies, right? So that many will at least be ordered, plus all the other, copies, so that it'll be prepared in the order. So when they show up, you will get them in your box for the price that that they sell for. And then, and that's a real easy way. You can add or take away.
Okay, but
books.
You can only limit one to that. Like if you wanted.
Oh no! If you're a reserve customer, you can be like, hey, can I get 2 copies of this? And they'll be like, yeah, sure. Because a lot of customers are collectors also, so they'll want one they can read, and then one they'll just put away, right?
Okay.
If someone's like, hey, can I get like 10 copies of this? We're gonna be like, come on, dude. But if you're getting like 2 copies, whatever. And so like, yeah, the Speculators, they're the ones doing it. And it's not a huge thing, right? But it's big enough, because a decent set of collectors are also in for the potential financial benefits of getting these, right? Which, fair, that happens a lot with collections. It's what it does. But there's the people who then go too far and abuse it, right? and that take advantage and then just leave stores and customers in the dust. Speculators, I know you be speculating, but if you're going to be doing this, and I can't talk you out of it, just like limit yourself, right? Like, don't buy 5 copies, don't buy 10 copies. Buy like an extra copy. Sure, you could be making more money, but hey, that's $30 more. Like in the case of this Punchline situation, that's $30 more that you can put towards buying some more Speculator stuff. Most comic fans are very supportive, and artists and publishers and writers, obviously, because that's why they all got into this, right? There's a lot of them started in stores, you know, as kids, going in, getting books every week. They do a lot and support retail stores and the industry of especially the floppies, right? The physical copies of comics. So that's a lot. I mean, there was people who were worried when the digital comics thing happened, but the culture is the culture.
Yeah.
The physical copy is part of it. So it's like if you were a pre-existing floppy reader, a lot of the times you're still going to be picking up the floppy, right? So yeah, that's about it as far as that specific thing goes. Last thing, to make this whole Punchline thing even more ridiculous,
Here's the punchline.
Here's the punchline to the Punchline story, folks. So I saw a story, a news story, about, hey, this is the first appearance of Punchline possibly earlier or in something else. And I was like, oh God, what? And like, because I've already been dealing with that stuff, right? We're getting phone calls and all sorts of stuff about, hey, you guys got this? You got this issue? You got this issue? And they're like, so there's Black Label is a thing they do that's not necessarily in continuity. It can be more adult. And a lot of them are in this like Premiere Plus format. They're bigger. They're like magazine size. And there's one that came out around the release of Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey, right? The movie, the Birds of Prey, fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn. There was a new series or mini-series that came out called Harley and the Birds of Prey.
Hey, that's like how they renamed it.
And yeah, and it's just the movie theaters. The company didn't rename it.
No,
It's just the movie theaters.
they wanted to sell it.
Anyway, in that issue, Joker's on the phone talking with somebody.
Commissioner Gordon.
And then in the background, you see a female silhouette, just like from like here to here. And kind of in the way that I'm sitting right now, like just facing kind of forward, a little off center silhouette. And she's like, who's that you're talking to? Whatever. So nothing, right? But it's a female silhouette. And we know it's not Harley because she's not there.
Right.
So Speculators being like, this has to be Punchline, right? So it's like, are you serious? We're going to retroactively have Speculators being like, maybe the first appearance was actually Harley and the Birds of Prey, #1. So I'm like, what am I going to do now? Like, it was annoying that I was like, there's a new wrinkle in this speculation train, so it's got to be Punchline. Like, it's one of those things. Like, it's not. It probably isn't. Who knows? There's only one issue of this out. So and that makes sense. It's not quite a month yet, because they're on a monthly release schedule, right? So what if like people think that, and the price, I haven't looked since I read that story, but what if the price has jumped super high on it and people are buying a bunch of it, and then like the next issue comes out and it reveals who that person is and it's just some rando, then it's like, oh cool. Like, that's why speculation like drives me nuts, because it's like it drives the sale of a book hard so that normal, everyday, good comic nerds can't read it or can't get it right away. And then like a few weeks later or like a couple months later, the issue goes back down to what it was selling normally. Doesn't matter anymore, and people don't care. And I was like, what was the point of this? And that's the quick dollar, right?
Yeah.
Quick dollar is never worth it, people. So we will now end this experiment. Episode 1, the Brodsho Menace, the Speculator Menace. Episode 1, the Speculator Menace. With this, thank you all.